Welcome to Linkronicity, where your journey and destiny link. I'm Stacey, Kumagai, your linkologist, and I'm here to help you link your life. How are you, lovely souls? How are you doing? I hope that you are healthy and safe and hanging in there as best as you can. And if you're not, that is why we are here together once again for another healing time out. And I was called upon the collective to do this healing time out to discuss respecting the link of nature's course. What does that mean exactly? Well, I'm here to prepare you as Jupiter goes direct, here to prepare you to deal with some of these energies. We've got cycles ending, we've got cycles beginning, and through this process of our own personal evolution occurring simultaneously, we may be feeling a bit scattered because as we dive into fourth quarter of this year, having been through all that we've been through this year, we're dealing with a lot of different energies in terms of optimism and hope, and also dealing with this chaotic worldly mess that we're all kind of entrenched in. And with these two conflicting energies, it feels like a push-pull. And that's why we're having a healing time out today. We're going to take a few breaths, but before we get there, I'm being called to help you understand this in a human context, in an explanation, basically, to help you feel like you're not alone and that you are really right on time with exactly of where you are right now. And there's no better way to do that than to use nature as context in what we're experiencing right now. So, for those of you who are in the northern hemisphere, you're standing on the crest precipice of your first piece of pumpkin pie of life, and your all-knowing knows all darn well that autumn 2020 is here. For those of you in the southern hemisphere, standing on the crest precipice of your first piece of spring tart, you know that spring is here for you. And why are these energies being brought forward in this healing timeout? It's because nature heals. Interesting enough, autumn and spring have a very unique relationship. And it is in understanding this relationship that autumn and spring have together that we get to see neutral extremes. What do I mean by that? Winter and summer are really intense extremes, right? You've got the extreme of summer and the extreme of winter. But when we're dealing with autumn and spring, we're dealing with more neutralized extremes. It doesn't mean we don't feel the same type of energies. It just means that we have to apply our own wisdom and knowledge in a different way to work with it, move through it, navigate through it, deal with the terrain that we're currently facing for purpose and reason. And so in autumn and spring, it's really a yin-yang energy season. It's demonstrating nature in action of shadow and light, illuminating contrast of push-pull relationship, of harvest bounty, simultaneously as we're seeing leaves fall away, and dense open landscape with the new spring blossoms emerging from the ground, trying to reach upward toward the sun. And so, like a hibernating retreat, battling proactive chaos and dealing with our upcoming planetary season, what we need to see is that it's offering to create both an autumnal pile of leaves to rake with our all-knowing reality that along the way several unexpected pile jumpers will be disrupting much of our mindful organization. No differently than in spring. You know, all of this beautiful open landscape we've prepared for blossoming Along the blossoms, you're going to find a few weeds, right? Same type of thing. So while this year has felt like worldwide, like it's been almost a year-long season of this forward-backward, transformative revolving door of magnified life to the 10th power, much of humanity's energies may feel sometimes stagnant and yet needing to take action at the same time. And what once marked our time in our life of anticipation, of rounding out a third quarter, entering a fourth quarter, is really no different. It's just that our circumstances and our life landscape's different. There's still room for cleaning out, and moving up and moving in. Year ends are meant for wrapping up cycles. Year ends are meant for purging. Year ends are meant for releasing energies that don't serve us, as we all know. That's a known bit of acquired knowledge year after year after year after year. We see it, we feel it. But this year it feels a little bit different, doesn't it? It feels a little bit different. Let me explain what's happening. So today, the sun came out like it always has, and always has come out every day. But here where I am, several weeks, we've been and still continuing, and I'm sending prayers and thoughts to all the first responders and wildfire fighters that are out there, as well as those having to evacuate. We're seeing that contrast just in the fire alone. People having to evacuate, leave, and things burning away, and yes, creating the same landscape to start over. Do you see what I mean? Like even a wildfire can demonstrate that for us. And so as the sun came out today, it looked different today than it has in the past, because these past few weeks, it's really felt like this apocalyptic, smoky charcoal haze, and making the sun kind of invisible to the naked eye, with the exception of what may appear like a blazing orange fireball, trying so hard to make itself known from behind the halftone Ansel Adams nature photo of the grayish energy. And why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this so you can understand that's exactly what we're experiencing right now. Whether you're having a wildfire in your area or not, the energy is still the same. The point that I'm trying to make is that the sun still is there, whether or not the haze is there to cover it up, like this encapsulated fog bubble. Okay? The sun is still there, which means as we're experiencing what we're experiencing in the collective energy right now, change is happening even if we can't see it. Change is happening. You feel it. You know it. The energy is shifting. And as Jupiter goes direct, we're being reminded that just like the sun doesn't wait for anyone, the energy also doesn't wait for anyone. It doesn't wait. It happens regardless. Just like, no differently than the springtime flowers trying to emerge in the southern hemisphere, no different than the leaves falling away in the northern hemisphere. It's the same. We're just being presented different contexts to grasp it. So in this healing time out, as we look at our thoughts, as we look at our feelings, as we deal with our human remnants that we barely recognize from our own soul's acceleration emerging from the depths of this hellish 180-degree turn of life as we once knew it when we first started off this year. And we're simultaneously coping with many losses, many changes, much tragedy, and dealing with the fact that those of us who are still here, we're determined with this low-grade fever pitch, we're determined to still be carrying onward. We need to be reminded of one thing, that our own evolution is really dependent upon this continuous stepping up and stepping into the light we see, and trust even that light always still exists behind the haze, even if we can't see it. We have to embrace that and accept that and digest that. Why is that important? It's important because for many who are resisting this change, and you know what I'm talking about, the ones who are destabilizing their rotator cuffs, trying to reach back for a past that doesn't exist anymore and won't exist as we step into the future, because we're not going to be the same after this pandemic, right? And I don't even want to say loosely after this pandemic, because it's still going to be going on. It's going to be in different variations of it, with mutations and vaccines and cures, and not really cures, but temporary solutions, and those who are willing to participate and those who are not. And I mean, we're still going to be dealing with this entire mixed bag of tricks, right, as we navigate our future. We're being shown that the more we continue to reach back for something that has forced us to change, we won't be really progressing our own evolution, because we're going to be searching for something that doesn't exist, when what we're really searching for is inside of ourselves. So that means looking beyond the external of what's in front of you right now. That means healing time out internally within who you are, what you think, what you believe, what you ultimately seek in your truth, and giving yourself the generosity of time and reflection to reactivate and reignite that continuous presence of your internal sunshine amid the fatigue. And I know you're tired, lovely souls. I know you're tired. Amid the fatigue, navigating a future with many unknowns. And I know that this would be so much easier to do with a world that's united than trying to attempt it in a world divided. But that's the whole point. That's the whole point. So let me break it down for you a little bit. That sentence alone of having this being easier to do in a world united than a world divided. We've seen the contrast of both this year, haven't we? We've seen the world come together, trying to help one another in many contexts. And then we've seen the world divided in other ways, seeking justice, right? Trying to right some wrongs that really can't be righted in the way that it needs to be righted, but we need to create new solutions toward progressing in an equal way. Okay, so we're dealing with this energy on top of everything. And the whole point is that everything we've experienced collectively as humanity is really about continuing to honor the process of knowing that we can still be learning and not judging, and instead continuing to learn, knowing that the unknown still remains to be discovered along our journey in symphonic reality. Yes, symphonic reality. Because the collective energy right now may have felt like it was in flux in different stages. So let's just say the early stage of this pandemic, we were feeling in flux, in limbo, right? Because there was a lot we didn't know. There's still a lot we don't know, but we have a little more knowledge now, right? The energy is changing in its level of flux simultaneously as new things are happening in succession. So, as humans, we may feel like the autumn leaves have turned from green to gold and are dying. But really, we're supposed to be looking at the autumn leaves turning from green to gold as in, what golden wisdom are you willing to take away in your learning from what we've experienced as we've dealt with this new normal? It's in this proactive seeking that we can actually see the beauty within change. Why is there beauty in change, even if it doesn't seem like there's a lot of beauty out there at all? There is beauty in change because it means that we have an opportunity to move things into a better place. And that's a big deal. That's a really huge deal. And so while much of the world in the past may have only seen leaves changing as a process to bare trees and polluted gray light. We're reminded by nature that our world now gets to live exactly like said trees, as humans, in the 3D, with each of us having leaves to change and fall away. And it's okay. So let me put this in a very gross, a gross context, but you'll digest the point much better than this channel that I'm delivering right now. Let me remind you that you have dead skin cells shedding off of your human body every day. I know, ew, yes. So let's put it into context. Whether you realize it or not, this very simple daily occurrence happens and you have no control over it. You may even try to proactively help the process along with your own personal care exfoliation, right? But the reality is, whether you exfoliate or not, the reality is the dead skin cells are going to fall away anyway. And you're still here as they fall away, whether you help it along or not. So why am I sharing this? It goes back to that rotator cuff thing of reaching back for a past that we can't have, right? So you're not going to reach for your dead skin cells, mourning and grieving them because they've fallen away off of your body. You've accepted it to a degree. It's a part of nature, nature's course, hence linking to nature's course. Dead skin cells fall away, leaves fall away, new things bloom as a result, new skin cells appear after the dead ones fall away. Spring after autumn. See how it relates? See how that connects? Well, so as we're living this world right now, we can apply this same theory to the seasonal shift and understand it in this context, obviously like on a larger scale, because this is the world here. We're dealing with a world that is different than we could have ever imagined. And what's happening from the universe's perspective is that the universe is asking us humans to understand what our soul already understands in our higher consciousness. I know, that's like huge, it's deep, right? It's big. But again, the reminder, things are changing constantly. Things have always changed constantly throughout our entire lives, but it just looks differently right now because we're dealing with this huge tidal wave of things that we're dealing with right now. Environmentally, socioeconomically, right? Politically, in the labor workforce. With this pandemic, we're dealing with so much all at once. And humanity is fighting to keep some things the same. But that's kind of impossible given what we've already experienced, right? It really would be impossible to go back to a life we once knew, knowing what we know now. As things have been exposed, if things have been brought to the surface to deal with, to work with. And so while others are embracing change, we have to examine our own place, our own personal place in this oil, water, push-pull vibration to make better choices than ones we've made before. We can't be reactionary. We can't. That human ego piece of us has died. It needs to die. And if it hasn't died, it needs to die. Because this is not about us individually. This is about us collectively. And the sooner we embrace that and grasp that, the easier it will be so we struggle less. And this is ultimately for purpose, a higher purpose, something that most humans feel comfortable acknowledging. But in their truth, sometimes tantrums set in and they whine and complain about going back to how things were. Yes, it's nostalgic, but things change. Yes, some things return and come back around full circle, like vinyl. But you notice that 8-track hasn't, the same type of thing. Anything else, there's an evolution for things. And so without understanding that things were broken and they needed fixing, they needed healing, they needed repairing, they needed revisiting, they needed to begin again on a firmer foundation this time. If we don't understand that piece of it, it's going to feel more difficult. So that's why we're doing this healing time out, so that we can understand it and make things a little bit smoother. Nothing's going to be easy, because change is not always easy. But it is for us to understand in a way that we're not getting in our own way. That's a big piece of it, people. That's a big piece of it. Lovely souls, you know this. You know, sometimes humans get in their own way. Why? Why is this so? Why is this the part of the process? It's part of the process because humans need to feel as if there is enough data to understand something, or enough proof to understand something, or somehow find a comprehensive way to like digest it better in order to say, okay, now I accept, because now I have this data. But the truth is, we've already proven it as verified with a reminder of what's happening in our actual reality. Reality is the proof, right? We know reality is the proof in what it is we can't see versus what we can see, and knowing and trusting that whatever is there, and what is not is not. And this is something we need to get a grasp on, so that we don't start manufacturing stories that aren't real. Because it's dangerous. It's dangerous to do that. You know, thinking that things are okay to open up when they're not, or thinking things are okay because things appear to be going down but they're not. You know what I mean? It's a very pivotal time for humanity to really get back to the basics, to understand what's really important. So it's silly of us to deal with old constructs because we've changed. So part of the human experience is really designed to be this continuous, ongoing process. Because if we already arrived here as know-it-alls and geniuses, there would be no purpose to take on the journey. So we have to be open to mistakes. We have to be open to learning. We have to be open to growing. And we have to be open to knowing that no one and no thing is perfect. It's not. We're all works in progress. Learning is a lifelong process. We're all works in progress, not just in growth, but in learning too. It's a cohesive relationship, the way autumn and spring are. The way autumn and spring have made this handshake of life, so has learning and growth. It's the same thing. So we got to be gentle with ourselves and realize that on a grander scale, the energy vibration that's igniting strong enough to emerge through a gray haze to see, accept, embrace, and ultimately share, to go forward with in our faith, in our strength, in our conviction, our trust, and our belief, even in the most challenging times. We still have to trust that the sun exists behind the gray haze, right? And that change is happening even if we can't see it. There are things that we're not even privy to right now in our human knowledge that's happening behind the scenes. So as we look forward, as we look at our consumer, our political, our employment, our economic landscapes that sit before us, and we're seeing this chaotic cluster storm, you know, that's a politer way of saying it, but you know what I'm saying. It's time to embrace what is our humanity wake-up call, for the collective to examine the truths, dig a little bit deeper, dig for a little bit more, ultimately become transparent and truthful, authentic with our glass. If we dare to be brave enough to become something better than we were and start from a fresh slate of saying, you know what, we're open to learning, we're open to growing. So as you're looking at the leaves falling away in autumn or the new blossoms arriving in spring, remember right now that between the two seasons, we need to really, truly stay present. Because if we're not present right now, we're going to be missing the moment. We're going to be missing what it is that we're being awakened to see. So I'm going to remind you gently that as springtime has claimed its space and autumn has claimed its space, the sun will continue to rise and appear, whether we can see it or not. So with that, let's take a healing timeout breath in and accept the learning and the growth that is like here for us to embrace. So deep breath in and deep breath out. Exhaling what we don't need anymore. One more time. Deep breath in. New knowledge, new wisdom, new growth, new opportunity. Exhale out. Old constructs, old confines which do not serve. One more time. Inhale in. Exhale out. We have an opportunity right now to shift our consciousness with as much compassion and love and care as we can muster within our soul. And it starts with each of us right now. So for you, gently taking on the day, lovely souls. Thank you for staying committed to the process. Keep looking straight in front of you to see what it is you are meant to see. Take action upon what you know you need to take action upon. Pull back from any reactionary things that you know are not going to turn out well. Because it's old energy that you're trying to push forth that doesn't work in this new puzzle. And realize that collectively we are stronger together. And it is here in this place we are reinventing as we're united in this energy. And the more of us that come together in this space, the less we're divided, and the easier this will be as we enter this new cycle of change. Thank you for being here for this Healing Time Out today. I'm Stacey Kumagai, your Linkologist, here to help you link your life. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Linkronicity, blogspot.com, and go to Linkronicity.com for private coaching sessions if you want some personal help on your own journey navigation through this in dealing with what your journey has presented as obstacles on your pathway. I'm here to help you as best as I can. And I'm hoping that you take on the day embracing both the autumn and the spring within you, in realizing that the sun will always continue to shine. Have a beautiful day. Have a great day. Be gentle with yourself and be gentle with others. I'm sending you light, love, peace, strength, and blessings. Namaste.